Hey, everybody, and welcome to another deep dive. Today, we're tackling a perspective on gender roles.
Okay.
Love and sacrifice.
Yeah.
Now, all that stuff that gets folks riled up and debating.
Right.
Our source today definitely doesn't hold back with their opinions, which is perfect for a deep dive.
Absolutely.
So we can really unpack their claims and see what we can learn.
I like that.
All right, so this source jumps right in with, why is it that nature cheated on men so much?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's like a gut punch.
It is.
Right. Makes you feel like there's some deep injustice going on.
Yeah, that word cheated really stands out to me. It implies this sense of unfairness. Like, men got the short end of the stick when it comes to, like, how society expects them to act.
Yeah, and maybe it's not even just about nature itself,
Hmm.
but how those so-called natural roles play out
Yeah.
in the world today.
Exactly. And,
Yeah.
in psychology, we often see this reflected in feelings of resentment or a sense of lost privilege, especially when it's,
Yes. Yeah.
traditional roles are shifting.
Interesting. So it's like that feeling of being cheated might actually be pretty common.
It could be, yeah. For anyone who feels pressured by societal expectations.
Yeah.
It doesn't even have to be about gender.
True. Think about like
Hmm.
a stay-at-home parent who feels undervalued,
Right.
or someone super ambitious at work but has to sacrifice their personal life.
Exactly.
That feeling of being cheated, it's more universal than we think.
I think so. Okay, so moving on. This source then says men work through their lives, but at the end, all their hard works are for their wife and children, with no one giving them the accolade they deserve.
Shabby, isn't it?
It is very much so.
All that pressure to work hard,
Yeah.
provide, be the rock. But who's really acknowledging it?
Right. It really touches on that classic provider role that's been so central to how we define masculinity
Yeah.
for generations. And while things are changing, that expectation is still there,
Definitely. And it can even lead to
Yeah,
what's called gender role strain.
exactly. Where men feel this intense pressure to live up to an ideal that might not even be possible or healthy.
So it's like,
Yeah.
look, they're trapped
Yeah.
between what society wants from them,
Yeah.
and what they actually need
Absolutely.
and want for themselves.
Yeah, and we know that bottling up those emotions, neglecting self-care, can be really detrimental to men's mental and emotional well-being.
Okay, so we've got this sense of men being cheated and feeling unappreciated for their sacrifices. And then the source says something pretty bold.
Okay.
Men love unconditional, but women only love their family.
Wow.
Wow, right? Like, is that even possible? Truly unconditional love.
That's a great question. Love is incredibly complex. Our personalities, our experiences, cultural norms, everything influences it.
Right. And while people are definitely capable of deep love and sacrifice, saying one gender loves better or more purely
Yeah.
than the other, that's just not something research backs up.
I agree. It feels very simplistic.
It's something so nuanced.
Exactly. And, from a psychological perspective, it might be more about how love is expressed rather than the amount or quality of love itself. Historically, men have been taught to show love through actions, providing and protecting their families, while women have often been expected to express love through caregiving and emotional support.
So it's not about like the capacity for love, but how that love gets translated into actions and behaviors.
Precisely. And this leads to the source's next point about sacrifice.
Okay.
A wife will choose to sacrifice for her family than her husband. A wife will choose to sacrifice for child than her husband.
That repetition, it really hammers home the point.
It does.
Like they're saying a woman's love. It's automatically directed outwards
Right.
towards her family, maybe even at the expense of her husband.
There's a lot of historical context here, and we can't ignore for centuries, women's roles in society have been defined by
motherhood and domesticity. That pressure to put family above all else, it's deeply ingrained in many cultures. It makes you think about what we were talking about earlier, how men show love through providing women through caregiving.
Exactly. But it's important to remember, these are social constructs, not biological imperatives. They can be limiting for men and women.
I see that. A man might feel trapped by the pressure to provide. A woman might feel stifled if her only acceptable way to show love is through self-sacrifice.
Exactly. And the source concludes with this plea, but a man will sacrifice for everyone forgetting himself. Men deserve some accolade, please.
It's almost like a cry for help.
It is, this feeling of being invisible, unheard.
It really highlights how dangerous it is to equate masculinity with constant self-sacrifice.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Men deserve recognition, not just for what they do,
Right.
but for who they are.
I love that. And that means acknowledging the full range of human emotions, needs, desires, regardless of gender.
It's like we need a whole new language
Yeah.
for love and relationships.
I think so too. One that allows for vulnerability, reciprocity, care.
Yes. And it starts with open communication, questioning our assumptions, and supporting each other's individual journeys.
Absolutely, because ultimately, healthy relationships, romantic, familial, platonic, they require a balance of giving and receiving.
That's so important to remember. So as we wrap up this deep dive, I'm curious, what really resonated with you today? What are your own experiences with love, sacrifice, societal expectations? This is a conversation that needs to keep going.
It does, absolutely.
Both within ourselves and with the people around us. Thanks for joining us, and until next time, keep thinking, keep questioning.
Thanks for the conversation.